Fix old cameras. Your successful completion of the demonstrated repair ultimately depends on the quality of your tools, the condition of your camera, and most importantly, your repair ability.
The viewfinder screws on a 645 Pentax can work loose, causing the optical viewfinder to wobble. But if it gets to the point where those screws fall loose and get lodged into the mechanism, it can cause a simple repair to turn into a nightmare repair. The mechanism is very complicated. Those screws can also end up on the circuit and short out the meter circuit. So it's advisable, once it's discovered that the viewfinder has started to wobble, that you access it and tighten the screws down or locate them and get them installed properly. When working with this camera, you need to be aware of the flex circuit that connects to the top cover. If you tear that, then you got another issue. Now that the viewfinder has been cleaned and secured properly, we can reassemble the camera, and in doing so, you'll note how it is disassembled. The little spacer screw in the slot of the viewfinder presently is held in with a little dab of Pliabond, but that could easily fall free and get lost. So it's barely held in there, but it is in place. So with that, we can put the top cover back in place, being careful to seat it properly and not bind any of the wires or flex connectors. Say what? Flex connectors? No, flex connections. Anyway, once the top cover is in place, we can move to the side panel and situate it. But before we do that, we'll slide in the viewfinder diopter. No, we'll put the screw in underneath the viewfinder diopter, as shown unsuccessfully here. Upon further investigation, it was discovered that the wrong screw was attempted to be used. With the proper screw, it goes together perfectly. With that center screw in place, now we can install the viewfinder diopter. It's just threaded in place. Take your time to make sure it's not cross-threaded. Sometimes you can take it out, fiddle with it, look at the threads. They're fine. Put it back in, back thread, and then forward thread until it bites. There it goes. Take your time, snug it up, and now you got to back it up until you find the screw hole that sits underneath the spacer. Now the spacer stayed in place, just have to shift it a little bit to line it up with the screw hole, and now we can drop the guide screw down in place and tighten it up snugly. I have a magnetic screwdriver, so it's easy to hold that shouldered screw in place until it gets started. There. That's how it works. You can see how it slides in and out as you turn the diopter ring. Perfect. Okay, now we can flip it on its side. Well, maybe just lay it on its side. Don't flip it, so we can put the side panel on. The countersunk screws that hold the side panel in place are of two different lengths. You make sure that you put the longer screws into the deeper wells. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. A long screw by the battery grip lugs. A short screw down by the preview lever. And then a shoulder screw that actually holds the top cover in place. And so forth and so on. With all the side panel screws in place, the leatherette can be fitted. If it doesn't want to lay flat and it's severely curled, you'll have to use Plyo-Bond. With the leatherette installed, the preview lever can be attached as shown. The little decorator button doesn't want to stick, so we will use a little glue stick glue, permanent glue stick glue, to put that in place. This glue stick glue can also be used on the leatherette if the leatherette is flat and doesn't want to stick. Here it was applied on the top cover viewfinder leatherette to help hold it in place. As the errant viewfinder screws were located without having to take this side panel off, there's only a few screws to put in place and the leatherette to glue down. The same applies on this side as on the other side for the shouldered screw and the different length countersunk screws. On this particular camera, the accessory shoe had also worked loose. Now, if that is all that needs to be done, the only thing that needs to be done to repair that is to remove the accessory spring plate to access the screws and then just tighten them down. These screws were actually removed and replaced because they had apparently been stripped out at another time. Well, all right then, that looks good and is now functional. Only one more thing to do, and that is to put the rubber eye cup onto the diopter. With that in place, the camera is ready to shoot. Clip on the battery pack, load a roll of film, and off you go.
Thank you for watching. Inspired? Check back for new video postings.